Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about the pettiest jury votes in Survivor history. Oh, pettiness, you gotta love it. It's easily the pettiest of emotions. You know, some might say that you should put aside your petty differences in the final tribal voting booth and vote for the best player. And that's what most people do on Survivor. They look at the options on the board and say, even if I disagree with this person strategically, they deserve my vote for $1 million. They outplayed me. Not these petty players. They chose to use their jury votes to make a statement, often refusing to actually vote for the player they think played better, and instead gave their jury vote to someone else out of spite. We all know about bitter juries. Bitter jurors are incredibly common, as is to be expected in a game like Survivor. But petty jurors are actually quite rare. It's a fine line between the two, but to me, pettiness is just that extra sprinkling of salt on top, where they use their jury vote to make a statement or get childish revenge for slights real or perceived. Regardless, it's a Survivor finalist's job to manage the jury, no matter how bitter or petty. And some of them didn't do so hot with these 5 players. All that said, let's count down the pettiest jury votes in Survivor history. At number 5 is Troyzan voting for Sabrina in Survivor One World. In any other season, Sabrina would have been a competitive finalist and a satisfying winner. But up against Kim? Yeah, sorry. I don't think so. Kim was the obvious favorite to win One World from basically day one. Heck, before day one, look at this cast photo. And she played what is almost universally acknowledged as a top 10 game in Survivor history. There was only one person this season who could have threatened her domination in any meaningful way. No, not him. It's him. Once Colton was medevaced, Kim, up against weak opposition and surrounded by an alliance of passive players, had the game won. She ran strategic and social circles around everyone, yet Troyzan, ostensibly a huge fan and big gamer, voted for Sabrina to win the game. His reasoning? He claims that on their way to the final 10 tribal council, while the players are forbidden from speaking, that Kim used hand gestures to signal to the rest of her alliance to change the vote from Troyzan to Jay in order to play around a potential Troyzan idol, which he did end up having and playing. That's it. That's why he refused to vote for Kim. Now, I've never heard this story corroborated by anyone else, and it just comes across as cope to me, as if Troyzan believes the only way he could possibly lose Survivor is if someone else is cheating. It's the equivalent of claiming your opponent is hacking in a computer game. Skill issue. Get good. And even if this did actually happen, okay. The men's votes were scattered anyway, and Tarzan didn't even vote with them. I certainly do not believe that anyone is entitled to anyone else's jury votes, but come on, this is your reasoning for not voting Kim? Critical to understanding Troyzan's jury vote is to understand his own inflated sense of his own game. Exhibit A.
Everyone came up to me and said, you played the game the best I've ever seen. I mean, some people were comparing me to like Richard Hatch and some of the best, all-stars of all time.
Huh. Must be the same people on the street who always come up to Jeff to tell him how much they love Edge of Extinction. In any other final tribal combination, Sabrina would be a very respectable vote. But up against Kim, who dominated top to bottom, an admission Troyzan even makes while voting for Sabrina, it just looks like sour grapes to me. Maybe all those Hatch comparisons were for his performance in All Stars and not Borneo. At number 4 is Big Tom's vote for Amber in Survivor All Stars. The All Stars jury was big time bitter. Big Tom was big time petty. Like literally every other member of the All Stars jury not named Sheehan, Big Tom was under the impression that Rob and Amber were taking him to Final 3. But at Final 5, Rob's double dealing was beginning to pile up on him, and he was faced with a bit of a dilemma. take out Big Tom here and lose his jury vote, or take out one of Rupert and Jenna and lose both of their jury votes. 2 votes beat 1, so Big Tom went home. At Final Tribal, both Rob and Amber are raked over the coals by this crew of bitter Bettys, and personal, melodramatic jury speeches abound.
You sold out your values, you sold out your character, and you sold out your friends for a stack of greenbacks.
Let's dial back the self-seriousness here, bud. You lived in a camp called Chaboga Mogo. This is not life and death. When Big Tom steps up to give his speech, for half a second, it seems like we might get some levity here. This is, after all, the guy who showed up to the Survivor Africa Final Tribal Council drunk as a skunk and gave a speech about a hyena licking hiney. Well, we're a long way from licking hiney. Big Tom acts like he's over Rob's betrayal of him and pretends he wants to bury the hatchet and goes to shake Rob's hand, only to bust out a playground classic.
Don't be stupid, stupid.
Obviously, Big Tom casts his vote for Amber, which is fine. It's his right to feel bitter and to hold Rob accountable for his deception. But his conduct at Final Tribal is hilariously petty. Really? The fake handshake trick? What's next? Bunny ears in the cast photo? Big Tom just wanted the final word on Rob, and simply voting against him wasn't enough. He wanted to humiliate Rob as much as he humiliated him, and points for trying, I guess. The fact is, very rarely have players acted as childish as Big Tom did at Final Tribal Council. In fact, not even the literal children on Survivor have acted this childish. At number 3 is Brenda's vote for Cochran in Survivor Caramoan. Don't get me wrong here, Cochran is a worthy winner, he played a great game. But Brenda's conduct during the jury questioning, where she pressured Dawn into embarrassing herself, then opted not to vote for her anyway, is just beyond petty. In the post-merge of Caramoan, Dawn lost her retainer in a lake and tearfully asked Brenda to help her retrieve it. Dawn is obviously incredibly insecure over her false teeth, and the idea of having her missing teeth seen by anyone, let alone millions of people at home, was quite obviously incredibly distressing. In a moment I think most would consider outside of the game, and probably something any of us would do for anyone else, Brenda dives into the lake and retrieves Dawn's retainer for her. It's a sincere and heartfelt moment, and Dawn's relief and gratitude is palpable. Shortly thereafter, Dawn votes Brenda out in a particularly brutal blindside. Brenda had every right to be bitter about her betrayal by Dawn, but at Final Tribal Council goes a little too far in her quest for revenge. In her jury speech, Brenda demands that Dawn take her teeth out, exposing to the world how Brenda saw her that day, at her most vulnerable. Brenda's argument is that Dawn would have quit if Brenda didn't retrieve her retainer, and Dawn's argument is that she would have forged on in the game, even without her teeth. After much badgering by Brenda, Dawn takes her teeth out, which apparently isn't worth a jury vote. All this, and Brenda still doesn't vote for her? It's just incredibly unpleasant behavior from Brenda. She's basically arguing that doing the right thing and helping Dawn find her teeth was conditional on Dawn's endless allegiance. And by not voting for her after pressuring her into taking her teeth out in front of everyone, she's basically just confirming that this was an exercise in humiliation and not, whatever she was selling it as? What was her point again? At number 2 is Vetus's vote for Monica in Survivor Blood vs. Water. Vetus voted for Monica for 3 reasons. 1, she is a neat lady. 2, he promised Tyson that if Tyson voted him out, he wouldn't vote for him in the end. Yes, Vetus, the famous keeper of promises. And 3, and most pertinent to this video, he just wanted Monica to place better than Jervis. Heading into Final Tribal, pretty much everyone on the jury was locked in on voting for Tyson. He played far and away the best game and was like 10% less dickish than the last 2 times he played, so he was a palatable, if not worthy winner in the eyes of basically everyone.
That's your chair over there, one of those.
It's okay.
There was no way he was losing this game even if he had the most disastrous final tribal of all time. Monica, sure, she's neat and all, but she was rarely perceived as being in the driver's seat. And Jervis was viewed largely as Tyson's lackey, with the additional downside that he had an oversized ego and overinflated sense of his own game. He talked a lot of smack, so much that it got his niece voted out. But it just seemed completely unjustified given his position in the game. It'd be like if Mick started trash talking or something. Vetus realized that the rest of the jury at large was highly likely to all vote for Tyson, and he realized that he could play second place kingmaker with his vote. Vetus bonded with Monica in the post-swap portion of the game, but more importantly, he just liked her more and wanted to see her finish ahead of Jervis. Vetus thought all of the above about Jervis, but also criticized him for his old-school style of gameplay, which he felt was too rigid and showed an unwillingness to adapt. So Vetus did something I'm surprised we don't see more of. He cast his vote specifically to give Monica second place, knowing that no one else was likely to vote for either Monica or Jervis. Specifically voting for someone just to deny someone else the second place finish and prize is the definition of petty. But ultimately, this lands completely on Jervis. His biggest problem in the game is that he simply rubbed too many people the wrong way. You know, you'd kinda actually think that game would recognize game. Vetus also knows a thing or two about rubbing people the wrong way. The pettiest jury vote of all time is Reed's vote for Jacqueline in Survivor San Juan del Sur. Bow to your petty king. Similar to Vetus, Reed cast a vote not for a winner, but to crown a second placer, and Reed really did not want Missy to get co-second place. Anyone who's watched this season knows that Missy is one of the most maddening contestants of all time to watch. She was responsible for Hunapu's early game domination, fueling her tribe by blowing through the tribe's 39-day rice supply in a few weeks. No wonder they were winning every single challenge. Then the tribes swap, and she's sent to Koyopa right before Hunapu's rice supply runs completely out. In compensation, Jeff takes the tribe's entire camp and walks into the sea. The person responsible nowhere to be found, and Alec, Wes, and Josh, who just swapped into this tribe only to have everything taken away from them almost immediately, get punished for no reason. Post-swap, Jacqueline and John side with Missy and Baylor against the Wentworths. Still mad. And post-merge, it is also Missy that is responsible for the Q&A coconut chop style challenges disappearing forever when her entire alliance colludes to just give her the reward victory, irritating Jeff so much he just rage quits the challenge forever and awards Missy the win. When she suffers an ankle injury late in the game, it looks like nature might take care of her for us. But it's so close to the finale that they just treat her injury and let her finish the game in a cast. Missy makes final tribal with Natalie and Jacqueline, and again, the jury is overwhelmingly and unanimously voting for Natalie, except for Baylor, who is voting for her mother Missy, and John, who is voting for his girlfriend Jacqueline, obviously. We've been waiting all game for Missy to be held accountable, and finally, at final tribal, Reed does it. And he does not disappoint.
You cast yourself as the motherly figure. However, fans of classic literary fiction will see through very quickly to who your true character was, which is the wicked stepmother, really, of the tribe.
Reed holds Missy's foot to the fire over how she treated the minority alliance during her reign in the majority, casting her as the wicked stepmother of the tribe who emotionally abused anyone not in her alliance. I'm not saying the post-merge men were sweet baby angels, except him, he is. But even if you think that people in glass slippers shouldn't throw stones, there's a big difference between burping and berating. With every other jury vote locked in, Reed goes rogue and votes for Jacqueline, a spite vote to ensure that Missy would get third place. Reed's vote for Jacqueline, or more specifically, against Missy, stands tall as the most iconic petty jury vote of all time. Long may he reign. Got nothing else for ya. Don't be as petty as these folks. Like and subscribe, and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.